I'm going to bring this video back to electric cars. So electric cars have been in New Zealand for a little while. The first time I drove a fully electric car was about 6 or 7 years ago. I drove a Mitsubishi MiEV, MiEV, and this is a very small kind of subcompact electric car. It's a 4-seater, it's a 4-door car, and has about a range of about 100 kilometers. And the thing that amazed me when I first drove this car was how shockingly fast it was, because the car is very small and lightweight, and it has quite a lot of acceleration. And from my recollection of driving the car, it seemed to have a system where when you were below 30 kilometers per hour, there was actually a power limitation so that the car wouldn't lose traction. I just had it for a test drive for an afternoon, and I drove it around the city, and it was amazing. It was a great city car because it was a very nimble, fast little car. And I took it on the motorway, 2-kilometer motorway drive through the Terrace Tunnel, and it was like, wow, this car is fast. And then I drove it up and around some of the hilly suburbs of Wellington, and picked up a friend and drove around, and it was like, this is actually amazing. And the car it's a great little car. It's the kind of city car that you have for, going to the grocery store, getting the shopping, maybe picking the kids up from school, that kind of thing. But the car, in my opinion, is very light, and it's not the kind of car that you drive for long distances. And it doesn't have the battery to support driving it for long distances. And from my recollection, this car was often bought by sort of city councils and other environmentally friendly organisations that just wanted a point of difference in their fleet cars. So it's the Mitsubishi MiEV, which I would recommend for a buy for people who just want a really cheap electric car to get around in the city, just to run errands and go for short drives. The kind of people who would never drive more than 50 kilometres in a day, that's totally the car to buy. It's so small and cheap and light and fast. Got a ride in Nissan Leaf a couple of times. Some people in my family bought a BMW i3. That's an amazing car. I borrowed it one day and gave some friends of mine who have a V8 type of sedan, and he was like, "Well, this car is amazing," and he was surprised at how fast and nimble the BMW i3 is. I recently went for a ride in Tesla Model S, which I believe belongs to ChargeNet, the car charging network in New Zealand. And so he was doing rides at a kind of an open day where they were letting people test different electric cars. Oh, and also Mitsubishi Outlander, which is a plug-in hybrid car. So it's a car that runs about 40 kilometers on a charge on electricity alone, and then runs into petrol mode, and it's a hybrid car. So if you're looking for a four-wheel drive, to go skiing and all the kinds of activities that people do in New Zealand, then the Mitsubishi Outlander is really great for the outdoorsy type people. It's quite, it's a big car, easily carries a lot of people. If you got a few kids and you need to take the whole family and all your stuff, and you go on a holiday, you can take long drives and it's no problem. And then when you're in the city and you're just doing your driving around, taking the kids to school and running errands and doing all the normal things people do in the city, and when they're not doing long drives, you've got electricity for 90% of your journeys. So plug-in hybrids are a good way to go. The Nissan Leaf is the most common electric car in New Zealand, and all Nissan Leafs are pure electric cars, so they're designed from scratch as an electric car. They generally are divided into two generations, Generation 1 and Generation 2. Generation 1 were made for the first 2 years, 2011 through 2013. And then at the very end of 2013, they changed over to Generation 2. and that's the one that's been made ever since. But I understand that there's going to be a new Nissan Leaf very shortly, which will be, I think, model year 2018. And then the original Nissan Leaf, Generation 1 Nissan Leaf, came with 24 kilowatt battery, and the second generation came with 24 kilowatt battery, and then they added a 30 kilowatt battery later on. So if you're not very familiar with what does a 30 kilowatt battery mean, a kilowatt is a unit of electricity. In New Zealand we say a unit of electricity. When you buy your electricity each month, say you buy 1,000 units of electricity, what's that going to cost? 30, that would be $300 for 1,000 units. That's a lot. So a unit of electricity is a kilowatt hour. So a kilowatt hour of electricity is what we normally pay up to about 30 cents for per unit. Depending on where you live in New Zealand and how much power you use and what company you buy your power from, you'll pay different amounts. So I think it can range as low as about 15 cents and up to maybe 30 or 32 cents per unit. So if you've got a car and it has a 10 kilowatt battery, you need to buy 10 units of electricity. If you pay 30 cents per unit to buy 10 units of electricity, it's going to cost you $3. A Nissan Leaf has 24 kilowatt batteries, so let's assume you just use 20 kilowatts each day because you do, I don't know, quite a long commute, longer than the average commute by far. Then if you buy 20 units of electricity each day at 30 cents per unit, you're going to pay $6 for your electricity. So that could be $6 to drive a round trip of 100 kilometers or maybe even slightly more. So that's quite affordable. Compared with the cost of petrol to drive a 100 kilometer round trip, you're generally going to pay at least $10 in New Zealand. So if you've got a very economic petrol car, you're going to pay $10 to drive 100 kilometers because you'll need 5 litres at about $2 per litre. So electric car, compared with even the most fuel efficient cars that you can generally buy, an electric car will be cheaper, generally 30% cheaper. But if you tend to drive a bigger engine car or a non-hybrid car, then you're easily going to be paying $15 to drive 100 kilometers. If you go from $15 to $6 to drive 100 kilometers, you can see that the cost of driving an electric car is very affordable. Now that's assuming you pay 30 cents per unit, but if you can get a plan which has off-peak charging, off-peak charges for your electricity where you can pay a discount rate, and there are so many different kinds of plans in New Zealand because New Zealand has a very open electricity market. Most households in New Zealand would have access to around a dozen different power companies because of our very open energy market and our open electricity industry. We're not very monopolized by power companies, at least in the retail. So you can get plans which have off-peak pricing. So I have heard of people saying that their off-peak electricity will cost 15 cents. So in that case, drive that 100 kilometer round trip using 20 kilowatts of electricity in an electric car. They'll cost you $3 to charge your car. So if you go from just a moderate kind of a car, just a normal mid-size sedan, we pay maybe $15 for a round trip of 100 kilometers. You can go down to $3 for your energy in an electric car. So electric cars are so affordable to run. So this is the reason why I want to change over to an electric car. I've been driving a hybrid for several years, and a hybrid car is been really fuel efficient to run, and for the costs that's been great for me. But now that we have a sufficient electric car charging network around the country to just use an electric car as an everyday car, I want to change over and get into that. So the car I want to buy is a Nissan Leaf because they're just so affordable. In New Zealand at the moment, and the prices are changing so quickly, And you can buy the very cheapest Nissan Leafs I've seen are around 12,000 New Zealand dollars. So I found a car that I want to buy. It's an affordable price for me. It's from 2014, so it's getting on to about 3 years old, so quite moderately new. It has all these good safety features, airbags and stability control, and also a Nissan Leaf is it's a very strong car. I've looked at the crash test results, and it will be a significant safety improvement for my car that I drive as a daily driving car. Also, with the electric car charging network being built around New Zealand, most of the places that I go will be available for me to drive. So generally I live at the bottom of the North Island, and I don't often go any further north than Lake Taupo, which is halfway between Wellington and Auckland. So I go to Taupo a few times a year. I go skiing on the mountains in the middle of the North Island, and so I want a car that I can drive up, go skiing. And Nissan Leaf has heated seats, which will be good for when I'm going there in winter. And by this winter, the car charging network will be relatively complete to give me access to those locations that I want to go. In the series of videos about owning and operating electric cars, I'm going to show you how to sign up to be able to get access to the fast charger network, and I'm going to show you how to use the chargers. If you look at some of my other YouTube videos, you can see that I've done reviews of some of the car charging infrastructure in the lower North Island, which is the area I live in. You can see that it's easy for me to drive to Palmerston North and use car chargers that far up. And there's a further car charger about 100 kilometres north of Palmerston North. So most of the bottom of the North Island is available for me to access using the car charging network. There's enough car chargers in place already for me to drive a theoretical Nissan Leaf from Palmerston North to Napier as well, so that covers the east part of the North Island. And by the mid-year there'll be some more chargers put in the gap between the top of the North Island and the bottom of the North Island, which will allow travel all the way through the North Island in shorter range electric cars such as a Nissan Leaf. Other use of electric cars for me, I tend to drive around in the bottom of the North Island. I live 50 kilometres from the capital Wellington, up the west coast of the North Island, and often I'll drive up to Palmerston North or down to Wellington. I usually drive down to Wellington every week, so I'd need a car that has at least 100 kilometre range, but also when I'm in Wellington I'll need some driving around range as well, so I need a car just somewhat over 100 kilometres. So I'm going for a Generation 2 Nissan Leaf, because that should have easily a range of 120 kilometres, which will give me 20 kilometres of driving around distance while I'm in Wellington City. Of course, there's a few chargers in the suburbs between where I live and Wellington, so I can rapid charge on my way home if I am actually short of power. But I don't envisage that I will need to use the rapid charger most of the times that I travel to Wellington. Here's a quick slideshow of some rapid chargers around New Zealand. These ones specifically are in Wellington. These fast chargers can recharge an electric car in about 25 minutes. So these are types of chargers you find at the side of the road by a petrol station, and these are used for making long distance trips or recharging your car if you're running short while you're out and about during the day. Thanks for watching my video. Please like and subscribe, and you'll be able to see the follow-up of how I go with buying and using an electric car in New Zealand. Thanks again for watching.